sleep and mood are intimately intertwined, often to the point where it's hard to know where one ends and the other begins. When someone is irritable, overwhelmed, or emotionally raw, it's tempting to write it off as a bad day or a bad week. But peel back the layers and you'll often find something simpler and more sinister at the root: chronic, unaddressed sleep deprivation. In both clinical and everyday settings, insufficient sleep doesn't just accompany anxiety and depression, it frequently precedes, fuels, and intensifies them. And in many cases, targeting sleep itself becomes a powerful, underused lever for psychiatric recovery. Let's start with the emotional fallout of too little sleep. Studies consistently show that even a single night of restricted sleep can impair emotion regulation, amplify stress responses, and increase reactivity to negative stimuli. Put simply, when you're tired, your brain becomes bad at filtering out what matters. Minor annoyances become major catastrophes. A neutral face looks like a threat. Your frustration tolerance craters. The amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for processing fear and emotion, fires more aggressively, while the prefrontal cortex, your logical, moderating voice, goes offline. This combination makes everything feel harder, more urgent, and more personal. Now, imagine this not for a day, but for weeks or months. Chronic insomnia doubles your risk of developing depression. It also predicts future anxiety disorders with remarkable consistency. In fact, research has shown that insomnia is often not just a symptom of mental illness, it's a precursor. In longitudinal studies, people with persistent sleep problems are significantly more likely to develop clinical depression or anxiety within the next 5 years, even if they start off mentally healthy. It doesn't stop there. Poor sleep also worsens existing mental health conditions. In people with generalized anxiety disorder, sleep deprivation ramps up intrusive thoughts and catastrophizing. In depression, it reinforces the sense of hopelessness and fatigue, creating a vicious loop. Your mind becomes foggy, your motivation disappears, and emotional resilience all but vanishes. For people with bipolar disorder, poor sleep can even trigger manic or depressive episodes, making sleep regulation a core part of treatment. Simply put, when the brain is not sleeping, it cannot stabilize emotion. Yet for decades, sleep problems were seen as a symptom of mood disorders, not a contributing factor. Therapy and medications were prescribed, but sleep was often left in the background, assumed to resolve once the real problem was treated. But emerging research has flipped that view. Treating sleep independently, especially with approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI, not only improves sleep but leads to meaningful reductions in depression and anxiety symptoms. In some trials, CBTI has shown comparable results to antidepressants in improving mood and, in some cases, even prevents relapse in previously treated patients. Why is this so powerful? Because sleep is foundational. It's not a luxury add-on to mental health treatment. It's part of the infrastructure. Without it, no amount of talk therapy or medication can function at full strength. When sleep improves, so does emotional regulation, concentration, decision-making, and even physical symptoms like appetite and pain perception, all critical elements for mental health recovery. And when someone starts sleeping well for the first time in months or years, there's often a noticeable shift. Their world feels more manageable, less jagged, and finally, livable. There's a dangerous misconception that if someone is lying in bed for 8 hours, they're getting sleep. But sleep quality matters. Fragmented, shallow, restless sleep still taxes the brain and nervous system. It's like plugging your phone in all night, only to find it's still dead in the morning. In the same way, tossing and turning doesn't provide the deep rest your brain needs to reset emotional circuits. And when you combine poor sleep with chronic stress or trauma, the emotional burden becomes even heavier. The reality is that many people suffering from depression or anxiety don't realize their sleep is part of the problem. They think their exhaustion is just another symptom, or that they're too anxious to fall asleep because of who they are. But anxiety doesn't just cause insomnia. Insomnia causes anxiety. The causal arrow goes both ways. And unless both sides of the loop are addressed, people get stuck. So, what's the takeaway? First, sleep deserves a front-row seat in mental health conversations. Not as an afterthought, not as a lifestyle factor, but as a core component of diagnosis and treatment. Second, Anyone struggling with persistent anxiety or low mood should evaluate their sleep, not just how long they're in bed, but how well they're sleeping. Are they waking up refreshed? Are they waking up often? Do they dread going to bed because they expect another night of failure? When sleep and mood disorder treatments work together, the effects can be transformative. Insomnia is not just the result of a restless mind, it's often the engine driving the mental exhaustion that follows. And while healing the mind takes time, improving sleep can offer a surprisingly fast entry point to relief. In a world where rest is undervalued and over-sacrificed, protecting sleep may be one of the most powerful acts of self-preservation available, quiet, non-negotiable, and absolutely essential.